Well, welcome to the Dare to Be Great, Dare to Be You podcast. My name is Sean Langwell, and I am your host. If you like honest, vulnerable, and real stories about what it takes to not only become great, but self-confident and bold enough to be yourself, then this show is for you. Each of my guests started out as ordinary people like you and me, but have accomplished extraordinary things in their lives to be considered great masters or experts at what they have been called to do. Join me each episode for inspiring, encouraging, and meaningful conversations with diverse people from all walks of life and industry. Leaders and brave individuals who offer unique insights into the fields of arts, entertainment, business, finance, technology, healthcare, sports, psychology, recovery, self-improvement, personal growth, and so much more. Whether you are in the same fields as my guest or not, I guarantee you will walk away from each episode feeling better about yourself and inspired to take the next bold step toward your own goals and aspirations. Your life will improve if you dare to be great and dare to be you. And today is a special treat. We've got Jessica Rios, who has a business called Leaning Into Light, who is with us. Say a quick hello, and then I'll give a proper introduction, Jennifer.
Hello. So
Jessica. I
nice to
said
be here.
Jennifer. Um, I don't know where Jennifer came from anyway. Um, Jessica Rios is a prolific lifelong letter writer. We're going to get into that because I don't know exactly what that means. Since childhood, love has been her religion, and she has taken this devotion into her journey as a serial social entrepreneur, working on behalf of our planet Earth and to illuminate the beauty of the human spirit so we can collectively create a world based more in love than fear. I can totally resonate with that. In 2021, she was diagnosed with a massive brain tumor that led to her release a lifelong addiction to food and sugar, and she now lives with more vitality than she ever knew was possible. On her 50th birthday, also the 50th anniversary of the UN declaring International Women's Day, Jessica performed a one-woman show called Making Love to Fear. She is passionate about dancing, hiking, freestyle frisbee, cappuccino foam, and singing love songs. Raised in Fairfax, California, she has lived in Petaluma since 2013 with her daughter and her Goldendoodle, Jerry. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you.
That's a mouthful. So, I'm sitting here. Tell me a little bit. We're going to just go in order here, and then I've got some other questions I want to interject. But lifelong letter writer, what is that all about?
Yeah, so when I was a kid at Fairfax, San Anselmo, my mom often wrote cards. She had this beautiful handwriting and she just wrote cards. And somehow I was drawn to it. So when I was 5 years old, I started writing to people and I would
Just
send them
random
letters,
strangers or just
people I knew.
okay.
Yes. And send them in the mail. And there's these people who would deliver these letters, and people who received them were so happy to get them. And so, really, it was an early sign. And so prolific, I've just been doing it, 45 years now. If I could show you my baskets of cards, I would. They're right here. But people are so happy to receive a letter in the mail, something they can touch. Somebody thought of me. It's still so special.
It
So, it's
is.
an art of loving people.
It is, and sometimes, I mean, this in this digital world that we live in, there's social media posts, there's Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and all this other stuff, and it's easy to lose track of the human touch.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I lived in Fairfax for a short time. I grew up over on the other side of the hill, other side of White's Hill out in Woodacre. And, I jokingly say, but there's a lot of truth to it that I had a middle class hippie upbringing because that's kind of a lot of what I was raised in. But where I'm going with this is talking about love. I mean, you have found this sense of spirituality. You call it religion, but love is your religion. And tell me a little bit about what that looks like from your world and and translate it into how it can help other women that you work with in terms of being a coach with them.
Okay, well, I guess I can start with the kind of how that looks piece. Do you want me to talk a little bit about
Yeah.
where it came from? Um, yeah, so I was a kid in school and I was in Catholic school. My family was Christian. And I had this buddy who would hang out with me in preschool, Christian preschool, and in Catholic school. And he wasn't in a body at the time, but he was this light, this presence of light, this golden light. And at church, they called him Jesus. I always felt this really strong presence of connection with Christ.
Hmm.
And for me, it wasn't Christian. It wasn't a feeling, a theology, a way of being that fit into a book or any one framework. The teaching that was embodied by Christ, by Jesus, was love. So for me, it didn't fit into a church that said it was right and other things were wrong. That actually wasn't what Jesus embodied in
Yeah.
my experience. It was much more universal. And so when I was 8 years old, I went to my parents. I was about to go to First Communion in second grade. And I said, Mom, Dad, I don't want to do First Communion because love is my religion. And so, although it's not, and they said, okay, they were cool with that, which is amazing. I'm so grateful. And so somehow in my early years, there was just a strong sense of connection with this thing we call love, which just like the word God, no word can capture the power of divinity or love. What is that, right? We could go on forever. But somehow it came in at an early age for me, and it's never gone away. It's only gotten stronger.
Well,
Oh,
and it's interesting too. I'm glad to hear you talk about that because, for 20 years, I also went to a Christian church and I wasn't raised, I was raised around a whole lot of different spiritual disciplines and or beliefs and value systems, all of which had love at the center of it. And then when for 20 years after studying and learning about it, I came to the same conclusion. And in 2019, I stopped going and a lot of it was what you just said that I got to that simple equation somewhere in that 1,500 page book that says God is love. And I went, yeah. And then I'm looking around and I'm going, it's not anything against the church that we were going to at the time, but the manifestation and the living out of that experience and what it meant to me, I was not seeing in the circle that I was in. I was trying to create it, and I hear you saying this, and that's probably, the divine nature of things in life. In my experience, is you just don't know where conversations are going to go, or the people that you meet and the people you come across, and that's part of
mhm.
the reason we're having this conversation here right now, because I didn't know exactly where we're going to go with this, and let's talk about how that manifests itself further. You and tell us, walk us through leading up to your traumatic brain injury, what happened and how that is, and share anything that comes up too about, you know, getting deeper in touch with your divine nature and the name of your business is Lean into Light.
Yep. Okay. So a little bit of a story around how the brain injury came to be. When I was a baby, I had big feelings like babies do, and I was given by my parents sugar. I was given sugar to feel better because sugar, what does it do to the brain, right? It's like, it just instantly does something chemically to the brain that it tastes good and it calms us down. It takes our attention away from upset to the sweetness. So as a baby, I was given sugar. And my parents are great people. I want to be real clear about that. They were doing their best. They had grown up in the ghetto in the Bronx, New York. What's wrong with giving your kids sugar? So, and even today we do it, parents do it, or we call it a treat, when actually it's a highly addictive toxin. And it basically, I carried that pattern of comforting myself with sugar, giving myself sweetness and pleasure that sugar can bring. Lucky Charms, rainbow marshmallow,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and for 46 years. And so at one point in 2016, I started to get migraine headaches that were minimum 5 days apiece, maximum 33. The longest one was 33 days with a migraine. And being from, I'll make a little bit of a geographical kind of values representation here. Being from Fairfax, with a bit more kind of progressive naturalist values, I picked up a way of being where I just don't use pharmaceuticals much. I use them for acute settings and that's it. So I wasn't going to pop a bunch of pills to try to get rid of my migraines. I wanted to figure out what exactly was going on, and I made up that, well, it has to do with me mistreating my body. I abused sugar and I overate as well. So it wasn't just sugar. It was quantities. It was stuffing myself because inside there was some kind of deeper problem that was having me have a food and sugar addiction, basically. So 5 years the migraines went on.
My goodness.
And
5 years of like 5 days at a time to as long as 33,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah, that's a sign of sort of human ignorance to a degree. What I didn't know is that there was a massive brain tumor growing for 10 or 20 years. So one day I was in despair, I was depressed. It was during the pandemic. I was obese, 65 pounds overweight, and I sat on the corner of my bed
Mm.
and I prayed. I just said to the divine, I give up. I don't know how to be my body's best friend. I
Mm.
literally gave up. I literally surrendered. And very quickly after that, and I know once again, Sean, thinking of kind of universal spirituality and concepts that span universally, surrender. Surrender is very powerful.
Yeah.
So within the next few days, I was guided to get an MRI. Went and got the MRI, and the neurosurgeon looked at me and he said, well, you've got a massive brain tumor. We don't know how long it's been there. We don't know why it's there, but you have four options. And I chose surgery. I chose to get brain surgery. So that's how the tumor formed. My belief very clearly is that it was my body's scream, agonizing scream. How can I get her attention? It tried. It tried to show me through feeling lethargic from eating too much. It tried to show me through depression. It tried to show me all kinds of ways. The body is it's an immaculate communicator, not just masterful. It's immaculate. The body can't lie. So it was expressing all these signals to me, but it took me a while. There was a deep and stubborn addiction,
Hmm.
dark spot that I had to go through. So I went into brain surgery on February 16th, 2021. So just 4.5 years ago. And during surgery, I had a near-death experience. And the way that I can describe that is there were three phases, there were three parts to the near-death experience. The first one was a pool of golden stars filled my middle, my pelvis, my womb, my middle, my abdomen, solar plexus. And the golden stars were Christ light. It was my buddy from childhood, my buddy all my life, coming to say, I don't even really have the words. It was just an infusion of affirmation that the divine light inside of us is the most powerful place we can turn to. We,
And I see it in you too, and it's okay on the show. You get to be you, and I want you to feel safe and comfortable just being you.
yeah,
So if
yeah,
emotions come up and you need to go there, it's totally 100% okay.
awesome.
Because
Yeah,
what you're
thank you.
describing right now, I've had another guest on the show that's described it, and it's not everybody gets a chance to hear this firsthand account. So
Thank you.
enjoy the moment of what you're explaining because there's people that hear about it on TV, there's people that have heard it in secondhand stories,
Mm,
but it's not common for people to be able to hear a firsthand account of what you are sharing right
okay.
here, right now in this moment, Jessica.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's helpful. So the stars, yeah, it was a deep illumination inside my being of the universal Christ light. And uh, that's all I can really say about that part. That was the first part. It was so far beyond words. And I haven't lost that feeling. I was walking to get a cappuccino a little while ago, and I was thinking about coming here to be with you. And I just tuned to my middle and I saw the golden light and I said, let it lead. And I went, boop,
Mhm.
and I took the next step on the sidewalk. It chills, chills right now. It vibrationally shifts the energy field that you are, your body, everything around you, the energy around you to come from that light. And I won't go here long, but I'll just say that's what my business is called. That's why it's called Leaning into Light. So it didn't take a near death experience for me to have an intimate, gorgeous connection with the Christ light. That came in childhood, but it was affirmed on that brain surgery table. So the second part of the near death experience, the visitor was Buddha. And the
Interesting.
prominent message, I'll tell you what the prominent message was, but basically, we laid on my neurosurgery table together. I was laying on my back with my head cut open, and Buddha was laying there just chilling. And we laughed and we laughed and we laughed. And I don't think I physically was laughing. I was anesthetized, I was totally out, but I was laughing with Buddha. And the message was, we are existentially insane as a species. Isn't that funny?
It is. Say it one more time because it is hilarious if you stop and think about it.
We are humans, all of us, existentially insane. We are
Okay.
actually existentially insane. And that thought had crossed my mind before. There was a little bit of an inquiry going around it that I had, but that was
Mm.
like, boop, okay, affirmation, you know. That's why Buddha's laughing, or it could be said that it's one of the reasons Buddha is often seen laughing. So that part was the second part of my near-death experience. The third part was not a figure that could be kind of anthropomorphized in any way. It was a message that was very clear, and it said, woman, you hold so much. You work so hard. Now is the only time you have. You're only alive now. Revel. The word was revel. Revel. Play. The energy was of this third message was play while you're alive. Have a good time. You don't have to heal the world with the love you feel. It's not your job. Enjoy your life, woman. It was a deep, deep message of gratitude and respect for what women hold, and particularly mothers, what we hold as we bring life into being and raise it. So that was, you asked a big question, Sean. I'm doing my best to answer it. That was the deep kind of spiritual imprinting that happened back in 2021 that has fed everything I do since then, including my work.
And I thank you. I'm glad I asked the question because I didn't know the exact right question. For me, I do my own little process before every episode, and I want it to be as organic as possible. And the only way that I know how to do that is similar to what you experienced on your table, is to just drop down and trust that the right words and questions are going to come through my lips to whoever it is that I'm talking to on the other side of the screen to share that message that's supposed to come through me, through you, through whoever my guests are out there into the world. And you can't make the stuff up. Um, I want to kind of put a little bow on that before we transition here, because what you described, um, it touches me emotionally. This show is not about me, but there is a relatability there. In my memoir, Beyond Recovery, I talked, and I'm just going to share this briefly because it may help you too, coming with the sugar and food addiction. There was a point before I reached out to get help, where I literally was laying on my back and I had done all kinds of drugs. I was committing slow suicide. I drank, I had done blow, I had done acid, I'd done all this stuff.
Mhm.
And I sat there and I literally thought I was going insane. I was in this small little room, 7 by 7 by 12, low ceilings, and I'm staring at the wainscot ceiling. And in my head, I could not shut up the voices. In the book, the chapter is called Voices, or that section of books called Voices. And what happened in that moment was all of the people that I had known through my whole life, I either thought I was going insane, I was going to die. I literally had to focus on every single breath because I was worried that I wasn't going to be able to take another one. So either I was going insane, I was going to die, or I had a problem with drugs and alcohol. And what happened in that moment was every single face of every single person that I knew in the world came to me and said, "We love you. We love you." And it was my mom, it was my brother, it was my aunts, it was my grandparents, it was close friends, it was family. It was like this parade of people coming to me in that moment and said, "We love you. You need to go get help." And the rest of the story is in the book called Beyond Recovery, of which I'm writing a sequel to because it's coming up on the 10-year anniversary. But that story and what you just shared, that's the beauty of what we get to do. Why I started this podcast is we don't know where these conversations are going to go. We don't know how our life experience can
Mhm.
benefit somebody else because a lot of the stuff that you just shared, people have thought about. People don't always talk about. They don't talk about the shame or guilt or whatever it was that was the bad side of being raised in a Catholic or a Christian church or religion, whatever it is. And yet you saw the beauty and the light and the God within that as love, which is a universal thread, regardless of anything. And on that near-death experience, you had not only Jesus in the form of light come to you, but the Buddha, and then this anthropomorphic message that is the message of love. And you internalize it how to come back to you as a human being. And now what we're going to do is take that to the next level because you have a killer business name. Um, our connection happened through somebody else who I had on the show who was just a random happenstance through social media. I don't even know how I met Mary Ellen, but her book, Lean Into the Light, is kind of a play on the words of leaning into light. And this lean in factor is something that I want to hear from you how you work with women to help them lean in to their own light because there's this
Mhm.
wall here.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
As a guy and as woman, there's a wall there. How do you help
Uh,
people,
mm,
in particular women, do that?
mhm. Just want to take one moment first to thank the people who came to you to tell you that they love you. It wasn't them, that was a projection of your consciousness, right, in that moment. And I'm so grateful to them for showing up and having you be here through that, knowing that you heard that you're loved and you're wanted. So just a moment of gratitude there.
Thank you.
Um, how I work with women with leaning into light. Yeah. And then I'll just note, words don't belong to anybody, although we copyright them and things like that. Side note, but Barry Lopez, the famous nature writer, he actually apparently had a book where he mentions leaning into light or leaning into the light. So, uh, apparently it's a compelling statement. And yeah, so how I work with women with that, or how it kind of feeds my work, is I'm a women's leadership coach, and I don't coach women to, you know, fit the mold of what our society tells them to do. It's not about looking outside for the answers because really nothing deeply compelling. The source of what we want in life is within us. It is that divine light within us. So when I work with women, I work with them to, number one, clarify what they want,
Mm,
develop their vision. What do you want? So many people, it's the majority by far, don't have a vision. They don't have, they haven't written down what they really want. If they were given a magic wand to dream about anything, your inner child, what do you dream of? We
yeah.
haven't answered that question. And that's so sad to me, but I get it. I have deep empathy for that. And the way that I like to think of it is, you're a companion of the divine. The divine is like holding your hand all the time. It wants you to be dreaming. It needs to know, what do you want, sweetheart? Let's get busy with this. Let me help you, manifest your dreams. So that's a way that I like to think of it. Leadership doesn't belong, vision doesn't just belong in a hierarchy. It
Hmm.
belongs in the human spirit. So it's working on their vision with them, which is a long-winded process. It doesn't happen overnight, although we can start any given moment now. Anybody listening who hasn't done it, I encourage you just to write 3 things down that you dream of. If you had the life you were dreaming of, if you were going to die in a year, you might, I might. What would you want to see happen before then? The second part is that leaning into light piece. So it's connecting with, again, outside of a monotheistic religious framework or any real religious framework, what is your relationship with the sacred, with the divine? I have coaching clients who call, I'm a coach. I have coaching clients who refer to it as source or spirit or energy, just energy.
Hmm.
Whatever it is, there's no right answer. And God's fine too. So, but what is their relationship with the divine? And so getting connected to that more than they already were is a really important piece of it because of how much power we can access through that connection with the divine. And then the third part, so what I actually do is work with women to really revitalize their life force so that they're leaning into light, leaning into their lives with vitality, with a lot, with energy and enthusiasm. And so what I call my process is, or what I like to say is live life turned on in love. And I use, and you'll hear this, I use a lot of kind of Eros fed terminology. And I won't all I'll say about why is uh, I am a deeply a devotee, you could say, of just pleasure and joy and really fully reveling in the gift of being in a body, you know.
Hmm.
So the framework that I use is called Making Love to Life. It's about looking at, with women, that's who I work with, although I do writing and such that men, can access, and I adore men. There's nothing against men. It's just I love being a woman. I was born on International Women's Day, and I am so stoked that I'm a woman in this life. I love that. So, yeah, looking at their life landscape through the perspective of, wow, what if life was my lover? What if
Mm.
my job had the pulsing vitality of being in love in it? What if, as a parent, I devoted myself passionately to the raising of my children and support of my children through that deep, vital life force? Not that we, yeah, there's lines with sexuality right in everywhere, but what if my friendship landscape was really pulsing with that gorgeous flow of vitality that we have available to us? So when I look out at the collective in our world today, and especially in our society, which I can see better than I can see the rest of the world, we're just so asleep.
Hmm.
We've tolerated mediocrity, we've figured
Mm.
it out, we've let the pain of the world suppress our vitality. We're outsourcing left and right for the answers when actually they can only be found from within. So there are actually a couple quotes that I wanted to share, Sean, that I've collected. And, when I talk about making love to life as a framework, making love to fear is actually the words. I was hiking one day here in town, and these words came through my body, which has been happening most of my life, making love to fear. And it basically means, in the human experience, we've got fear.
Hmm.
And we can demonize it, but that doesn't help. Just makes it kind of stronger, puts us in a fighting mentality. Um, Going to addiction doesn't help it, just buries the wounds deeper. Pretending it doesn't exist, that's lying
Mm.
to ourselves. That's a problem. So making love to fear is a description of what the words meant when they came through me is looking at fear in the eye as if it's a powerful messenger that came to tell me something I need to hear. And so it's dealing with pain in a way that sees it as a lover. You've got a message for me. My brain tumor, I named her Fidela.
Hmm.
And I am so happy that I had a brain tumor to help me wake up to how it could feel to be in a human body and not keep that addiction going anymore. So it's about looking at pain actually as a gift. And this is ancient stuff. Carl Jung, a person doesn't become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious.
Yeah.
Rumi, through love, all pain will turn to medicine. Anais Nin, the secret of joy is the mastery of pain.
Repeat that one.
The secret of joy is the mastery of pain. Actually, I have these beautiful little cards that I printed these on, although it's probably backwards in your view. You see that? Yeah. Beep beep. Yeah.
So that begs a question here, and I asked ChatGPT to sometimes help me just so I can frame it. And I actually, believe it or not, we've asked all these questions without asking these questions, which is really freaking awesome. But this concept of making love to fear kind of goes back a little bit to what you were talking about before of the pain is it you didn't use these terms, but pain is a teacher and pain is a messenger, and how you got this term of making love to fear. But what does that look like when you're working with the client? In terms of practice, because there's this disconnect. And like you said, outsourcing pain or solutions, really, and not just outsourcing the pain, but trying to find something to solve the symptoms rather than looking to the light within. So how does a woman or even a guy, because this is not, it's not relegated to by
Nope.
gender, it's a human condition, it's
Yeah.
called suffering. Um, how do we do this?
I love that you just brought in the word suffering because mm, our fear, our pain is is a friend. It is a gift. It is a messenger that gives us a choice. Okay, I've got migraine headaches. Okay, how am I going to respond to that? Right? Oh, well, that's got to be because I eat too much and I don't exercise enough. This is back in the 1990s or whatnot, early 2000s, all the way up to 2021. Uh, the messenger is trying to get our attention, and the beauty is that we always have a choice. That's the one thing. So you ask, how do I work with people on this? And yes, I only work with women through my business, but some of my best friends or my boyfriend or whatnot, my daughter, it's the same sort of recipe. The first element of it is telling the truth,
Oh, thank God you said that.
the simplicity of genius. Right? Is that cliche? Yeah, apparently it needs to be because as a species, we're existentially insane. So we're slow and we're resistant and stubborn, and our ego, our pain body, call it what you want, our shadow self, is really tricky and really clever at getting us to deny, to lie to ourselves, to hide. So the first part is telling the truth about the pain that's there, getting to know it intimately, again, like a lover, making love to fear. What do you want to tell me? How do you want me to listen to you? What are you here to say? And
So it's telling the truth is not denying. The opposite of not denying is acknowledging its presence, and ergo, the next steps you're probably going to get to is what do we do to acknowledge it, accept it, and then take its next step of actually
mhm,
embracing and loving it.
mhm. Yeah, and I want to acknowledge that it's scary. That's why we run away. That's why we demonize it. That's why I won't say the F word, but it's like that's why we say F cancer. It's
Yeah.
like when actually my very, very strong and passionate truth is cancer is an extraordinary. Oh, this is so hard to say because of the extraordinary pain and suffering that cancer can cause. So this is not without empathy, but I hope I never get cancer. My tumor was benign, thank God. Cancer is a really loud messenger.
Yeah.
And when I think of, for example, a child with cancer, I can't put my mind around the why of that. It doesn't make any sense. It's totally unfair. And yet somehow the parents of that child are being called to commune with their child in a place of surrendering to love. What is being asked of here? And how can I do everything in my will to love this child, including accepting that they came into a body, therefore they're mortal and they might die. And if they do, I want to leave them in their last breaths knowing they were totally loved. Just like all those people who came to talk to you in your moment of despair, Sean. So it's a process of telling the truth, which in the presence of my being, I've had, wise people tell me, thankful for them, I am, that I'm a very safe energy field. And so it's just because love is my religion. Love is a very safe place, eternally safe. Um, but once you start telling more truth about the pain, about the fear, and getting to know it, and you're held in a loving embrace, you feel safer. It's not quite as scary at that point to make love to fear, and certain clients I don't use that language with as much because it's too loaded with making love means having sex. Well, that's
Right.
actually, if you really look at the words, it's not what it means, but that's what we've societally attributed to, and that's fine. So, yeah, so it's about creating a relationship with it and taking steps to imagine what did it come to tell me? Again, back to vision. What is it in my life that isn't showing up that this pain is here to help me see? And how can I take one day at a time to step more into, you know, being the change I'm meant to be, being the change I'm meant to see in the world? I know that I can apply my own story of bodily abuse and say that, I am in ecstasy
Mm.
almost every day in my body for at least an hour, if not like 5 or 10 or 20. I have an incredibly vibrant life in my physical body. And this is just energy. Yeah, it looks like skin and hair and stuff, but right, just talking about energetic ecstasy, really, because I needed pain. I needed severe chronic pain to wake up. I'm not enlightened. That's not what I'm saying, but to open my eyes a lot wider than they were before to see the power, the gift of being in a body and in a woman's body. Oh my God, like I get that. Wow. And so, every day it's hiking, it's Pilates, it's dancing, it's whatever it is to just feel the incredible gift of being in a body.
And that's one of the other questions I was going to ask, and you kind of answered it. But despite the pain, if we look at it with a different set of sunglasses, a different pair of lens, a different perspective of what it's trying to teach us, the other side of that is truly knowing and understanding and fully a visceral response to pain, to feel that pain and not run away from it. When we're able to move through to the other side, that ecstasy that you just described so eloquently, that I mean, you're high on life. Quite honestly, you're high on life
Mhm,
15 to 24 hours a day.
mhm,
When you're sleeping, who knows? But you get to know that's the paradox. That's what I talked about in the book Chill, is these extremes and finding the balance to embrace the space between extremes. But the extremes are not bad. We automatically think that this is this way and this is this way and this should be good and this should be bad, and that's not the truth. They inform here. They are rails to
yeah,
make what is present and here meaningful. And when you come from that far extreme pain, near death experience, you have the other opposite extreme here. You know what that full spectrum is, and that completes a cycle, which ergo, I'm kind of just encapsulating what you've already shared, and so I can understand it a little bit better. That
yeah,
is awakening. That is enlightenment. That is living here and now and being fully present. And it's you can't describe it. There's no language that really describes what you're trying to describe here, Jessica.
mm,
There just isn't.
yeah. The only language that comes close is music.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I've found that can basically encompass an embodiment, auditorily of what it's like, right? Does ecstasy. Ecstasy is, a sense of oneness. It's a sense of communion with the divine, with the all. Like, oh my gosh, it's what is making love, I think of it on the sexual plane. It's communion. It's in the communion in the flesh. It's it's the loss of the thought that we're separate from each other. It is ecstasy.
Yeah.
And so we can actually create more and more of that in other areas of our lives, not isolate it to one area. That's uh, a romantic situation, but it's possible. And yeah, what you were saying about the spectrum, we live in the realm of duality. We live in the a realm where we perceive ourselves to be separate from each other, from the divine. And so what I like to tell my daughter's 12 years old, and when she goes through difficult things, I try to remind her, there's a gift here. And if you didn't feel the yuckiness of rejection in your class, some kids don't like you, or maybe you're not as smart as you wish you were, or whatever. If you didn't feel that, you wouldn't feel the other side of it. You're brilliant in this way or that way as an artist or as a dancer, I tell her. And it's like you wouldn't feel the amazing joy that's possible on this end if you didn't really fully feel this end. And that's important to say because some of your listeners are parents.
Yeah.
And most people I talk to, if not all, would say that the greatest love they've ever known is their child. And we try to do what protect our children, which we should, but not so much. They need to experience pain. They need to experience things that are tough and not be given a treat, sugar or something to get away from it. They need to feel it. They need to cry. The other day, my daughter said to me, Mama, it feels so good to cry. And I'm like, yes, I'm so glad. So,
It does though. I mean, it just those aha moments and you described it as dance or even making love in an intimate setting,
mhm,
music, dance, music, making love. The common thread there is that there is a not you're present. You're not here and there. You were just there experiencing what's going on right here and now.
mhm,
Music, like you said, music has an incredible ability to transcend
mhm.
all
Like that.
language, all thought,
Like
all the same way that our facial expressions of tears or smiles or anger and all those normal facial expressions that are expressions of emotion, they're universal. And that's so powerful. And I think that's part of the attraction. I'm going off on a different tangent, but that's part of the attraction with entertainment and sporting events is there's this chance for people to come together and we're going to put a bow on this, but because of this separateness, because
that.
of this feeling of so many people being isolated, lonely, and still having these tendencies, including me, to think that our situation is somewhat different than other people. The way to overcome that is to talk with others, to be
Hmm.
part of a community, to
Yeah.
go dance. I mean, I'm going to give you a chance. I don't know if this episode won't be out in time for your dance thing coming up, but I know you have more. So let's give
Yeah.
people a chance
Well,
to dance with you
yeah.
wherever you happen to be.
Hmm. Yeah, well, for listeners who are in the Sonoma County, wine country region, or even in Petaluma, where I live, I started something in August called Dance Aluma, and it's a monthly women-only dance gathering. Most of the time when I go dance, there are men there, and it's great and it's fun. Like today, headed out to a free concert in Santa Rosa, but there's something really important about women having space to dance with just ourselves. There's a safety that's in
Mhm.
the space. I've never been raped. A lot of women have, and otherwise violated for their bodies. And so to have a space that's just women only is really awesome and important. And it's also substance free because you can go dancing a lot where there's alcohol involved, and here's
Mhm.
a space where there's not. So yeah, so that's every month, Dance Aluma, and I'll share my website at the end, but people can find out about that through there. And I also, when I work with clients, Sean, coaching or through my masterclass, I have a Making Love to Life masterclass. The next one starts in January. It's 6 weeks online on Zoom for women. And through that, I actually have a collaborator who is based in Germany, and she is a dance artist and choreographer who brings her art of dance into the experience for women. And when it's with coaching clients, she actually participates one out of every 3 calls. She gets on the phone and provides guidance for the client
Wow.
to connect with their pain through movement, through feeling where it lives, through connecting with the body and moving with it. And that's a really powerful modality. It's actually the top antidepressant, dance, above all other exercise forms, above SSRIs, medications. It's the top antidepressant. So there's plenty of reasons to be depressed at this time on earth. And dance is something, the top thing I would recommend to anybody for mental and physical and every which way well-being is to dance.
I love it, and I know how I feel when I dance. And on occasion, if I'm out of my own head, even if the house is empty, I'll put on music and I'll dance around the living room like I used to when I was in my 20s because I danced every single night because I
Yeah.
loved it.
Great.
I had different motives back then, but I also just love to go out there and move. I always have. And um, how do people get a hold of you? I had forgotten, or I didn't even know that you had this master class. You've got plenty of time. This episode will probably come out in a couple weeks. So since you have this Dance Illuma going on a monthly basis and you've got ongoing, you're still accepting more coaching clients as well, right?
I have
So
room for a few more. Yeah.
let's let
Yeah.
people know how to reach you and join your tribe, if you will, through a mailing list or something like that. So go ahead and spill your stuff and we'll get this out there for the world.
Yeah. Every week I have a newsletter I put out. It's pretty much every week. I do my best to keep it consistent, but it's called Leaning into Light. So it's on Substack. But the main place where people can go to connect more is my website. That's leaningintolight.com. And actually, the newsletter I'm going to send out tomorrow morning is about dance and the power of it in our lives. And I actually tell the story of dance for me in my life journey, getting very much accentuated through the severe pain I went through um, in that newsletter. So that's coming out tomorrow. And something I didn't even mention yet, which just I'll pop in here is, one of the most painful things the human body can feel is called sciatica. And
Hmm.
perhaps some of your listeners know what that is. After brain surgery, because I had to sit for weeks, I couldn't even move my head like this. The slightest tilt would cause pain, and I wanted off the opiates as soon as possible with, 52 titanium staples in my head. And so I had to sit a lot, and I was overweight still. I got severe sciatica, and I had it for 92 days. I tell you, I gave birth at home, all natural. It was painful. It was powerful. It was so beautiful. A tiger came through me to birth that child. Oh my God. It was what pain. That was ecstasy in a different way. Severe sciatica was living hell.
Mm.
So I got that gift. I got the gift of 92 days of living hell. And part of the gift, it's multifaceted. I am so grateful to sciatica, and I hope I never have it again. And I do everything I can to keep my body very well cared for so that things like that never show up again. But one of the gifts is it got me dancing because I couldn't
Mm.
sit. I couldn't sit for 92 days. It was hell if I sat. And I wanted off the painkillers, but I actually got an epidural for severe sciatica. I got heavy steroids put into my body because the pain was indescribable. And I started to go to that crazy place you talk about
Yeah.
because over enough days of chronic severe pain, it starts to get you. So, yeah.
Dance, dance, dance.
Dance, dance. Yes, dance. Absolutely. And I just want to share, a couple quotes that are really moving for me at this time on earth. And this goes beyond what I've shared with you, Sean, or what you've shared, or my work. This is planetary, observations from a beautiful soul, a man named Michael Meade, who I met in 1999. I was in San Francisco at a youth leadership conference. And I met the Dalai Lama that day. Michael Meade was talking, and he had these quotes I'm going to read here. One of them, he said, moral crises and ethical dilemmas form the crucibles for growth and transformation for societies as well as individuals. You
Mm.
can hear in there how he knows, he gets crises and dilemmas form the crucibles for growth and transformation for
Hmm.
individuals as well as societies. And the other quote that's a little shorter of his that I love, and I have them printed on these cards, which is so fun. Facing our inner wounds not only heals trauma, but also reveals the parts of ourselves that are not wounded. We're going through a dissolution throughout the world right now. And so the way I like to put it is throughout the world right now, this is the lens I see through, we are going through a massive purification. Trauma galore is surfacing in all kinds of inexplicably atrocious pain points. And underneath it all, with huge compassion for the pain involved. We are very fortunate to live here. There are people yeah, whew, it is a gift to show us more of what we want.
Yeah, and I couldn't, we could spend a whole nother
Yeah.
hour talking about that. And
Yes.
I agree with you. And you're the first person I think I've talked to on the show that has brought that up. And we're going to put a bow on this. But as you mentioned, as you've expressed, as you've lived, as you share, as you continue to teach and dance and work with women, the pain is not something to be feared. That, your concept of making love to fear is a solution and it's tied to surrender. And I want to give you last words and then I'll wrap up. Is there anything else that you didn't get a chance to say before I put a bow on this and take us out?
I just want to express huge compassion for the human condition right now. I deeply feel, as you can see, um, I feel the pain of the collective, and I've always felt it. And as a child, it's what motivated me in that spectrum of polarity that we live in, right? My heart is really big and open, and I felt the pain of the human experience acutely as a child, energetically. And that's what drew me to the power of love, which is the only thing that can heal it.
Yeah.
It's the only thing. So I just want to express deep compassion for people listening for whatever form your pain is taking these days. Um, Love is calling your name, and however that looks, go dancing, go cry next to a river, do whatever you got to do. But when you lean into the divine light inside of you, your hand is held, absolutely held, and there is a way to live the rest of your life, whether it's one day or 50 years or more, in more ecstasy, in more of a state of joy, so that you could die happy.
And that's how you live a life without regrets, Jessica. That is living in the light. That's leaning into the light. That's living in the light. And folks, I don't have anything else to add to this. This has been a true delight. Thank you for being my guest and sharing your heart with me and with anyone who happens to listen to this episode. Folks, this has been Dare to Be Great, Dare to Be You. You can see why I started this show because we get to have people like Jessica on here. If you enjoyed it, leave a review. You can find our entire library and future episodes on Podbean and wherever most podcasts are heard. There is an opportunity to follow the show. It's starting to take off. I don't know. I can't make this stuff up. People are just finding out about it and digging what we're doing here. So search my name, Dare to Be Great, Dare to Be You, or my name, Sean Langwell. I am your host. Until next time, be the best you can possibly be. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Sean.